Hi there, I'm Adam Forbes. I am the host of the Corporate Escapology podcast and the author of Corporate Escapology, the book. Today, my guest is John Jones. I think of John as a corporate boomerang, which kind of is a bit unfair, but he's had no fewer than 12 different corporate jobs, 2 of them at the same company I worked at, BP. I always used to look at him quite enviously when he left because he made it look like he was doing more kite surfing than working ever. Usually in really, really far-flung sunny beaches. I'd get these beautiful photos sent into my WhatsApp while I was looking out into the grey London skies. But I always thought he's done really well out of corporates. He did keep bouncing back. He's not a corporate escapologist in a really corporate conventional sense because he spends his time today employed by corporates. But I just feel listening to him, he has really made these jobs work for him. So he's absolutely one of those people that is working to live than living to work. His mindset is different and he's always looking just a little bit ahead to say, is this giving me what I need to get? And if not, I might start looking elsewhere. So let's meet John. I think the story is going to be very interesting for all of us. Brilliant, John. Thanks so much for joining me today on the Corporate Escapology podcast. Great to have you with me today.
Adam, it's great to chat to you and great to catch up. So it's an honor and a privilege.
Thank you. Very nice. Well, let's start off with the early part of your career, before you sort of went corporate, and definitely before any boomerangs started to appear on your CV. So you did a degree, a master's maybe in electrical engineering?
I went to university late. I went to university at 21. So
did you? Okay.
Yeah. So I started my career in brewing. And the reason for that was I finished my O levels and I decided that I could do my A levels at night school. I could do an apprenticeship, earn money, and I could windsurf all afternoon because I used to work shift. So it was more a means to, and you'll see a theme probably emerge throughout. The people work to live or live to work.
Yeah.
So I went to university at 21. I kind of had a plan, but I spent 4 years working, had a car, had money, and yeah, it was it served its purpose, and yeah, I enjoyed it. So I finished my apprenticeship after 4 years.
Okay.
Then I went off to university at 21. We'll probably touch on that. Kind of liked it a bit too much, have worked, and I stayed there for 8 years. Yeah, so I didn't actually come out of university until I was 29, 30. So yeah.
Yeah, but you started late. That's important to know. Yeah. Okay. And what did you do there? You went and became an academic.
I did my first degree in electrical engineering. Seemed like a natural transition from what I've been doing in my apprenticeship. But then I kind of pivoted a bit. I did my PhD in marine seismology. So I studied earthquakes at the bottom of the sea. So went off to Greece and measured earthquakes at the bottom of the ocean. So
more windsurfing.
Yeah, more water sports. The water's a common theme. Outdoors is a common theme. So yeah. So again, oceanography, did a lot of diving, clearly working in oceanography, underwater communication. So again, very, very odd sort of, it's almost like a bit schizophrenic. Do you know what you are, John? Do you know what you want to do? Because you keep kind of changing all the time. And again, I've changed a lot through my career. There are some common themes, and hopefully we'll touch on those.
But at 29, so you've got your PhD.
Yep.
You decided to do what with that then?
Again, I didn't do the traditional sort of milk rounds, things like that. I applied to BP. They were looking at mature recruits. I saw an advert. I applied. I went up to Hull for an interview. Kind of pretty intense, sit around a table with other people, solve problems while, lots of BP people actually watch you and take notes and see how you actually respond. But yeah, that was 2 days. So and yeah, I was very lucky. I was offered a job with BP. They said I could either go to Hull or I could go to Grangemouth. That was a very, very short thought process. So I'd been to Edinburgh before, so off to Edinburgh. Yeah, I was also doing a lot of paragliding at the time, and there's a lot of hills in Scotland. So a lot of paragliding and mountain biking. I used to finish work, jump in the car, and then head off to the hills and fly all evening. So yeah, not a tough gig.
Hello. But what kind of roles were you doing in Grangemouth?
I was building simulation systems. So what was really odd is everything I did at university, I wasn't recruited because I did anything to do with oceanography. I was recruited because I was a control engineer when I worked in a brewery. And so I was basically an engineer, control engineer. So I built
Yeah.
control systems. I built the equivalent of simulation systems for chemical plants. So
But not at all linking up
no,
in a very direct sense, at least with the whole
yeah,
seismology and
yeah, I kind of
brewing.
thought I spent 9 years of my life at university now, and it was great and I loved it. And then I end up getting a job with BP, primarily linked to what I was doing before I went to university. So it feels like there's 9 years of something that's didn't quite flow.
Okay. And at that time, you've said to me since you'd got this sort of interest in business, partly because you didn't understand it or you didn't feel like you understood it enough. And so what was driving that then at the time?
Yeah, I think as I started working for BP and you kind of see all the different functions and business areas. As an example, I joined when oil was at $19, the lowest
Mm.
it's been for. I had no idea kind of what that meant. I had no idea about the economics. The more I was there, the more I was interested in finance, the business. At the time, I thought the quickest way is to learn the business is A, move around, or B, do a business degree. And the great thing about BP is if you ask enough people, enough business unit leaders, one of them will actually kind of fund you to do your MBA. So I think I went
In
through, I
those
think,
days, in
in those
those
days,
days, maybe.
in those days, I think I asked about three different business unit leaders before one of them said, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So what were you, and what had you moved into a commercial role by that point? So you were able to put some of this stuff into practice, or was the plan
Yeah.
to then after
So
the
I,
is it
so I
MBA, wasn't it? You did.
Yeah, so I think I transitioned from an engineering role into more of a financial and commercial
Uh-huh.
role. So I changed from engineering into finance. It kind of cemented my kind of wanting to transition more into a business role rather than just be an engineer.
An engineer.
Just
Um, and then there was one of those restructures, actually quite a major restructure. Where was that in the 3 years? The sell from the BP chemicals business to Ineos.
Yeah, so I'd moved out of finance, and BP was looking to divest its chemicals business. They didn't say they were going to sell it. Initially, they were setting it up as a separate entity, and they were going to maintain their share. And I was responsible for helping set up all the trading systems, all the commercial systems,
Oh
as an
wow!
as an independent and separate entity. So again, I was supposed to be working in London, but it ended up being like a virtual job. So I stayed in Edinburgh, flew up and down to London. Offices were in Chicago, back and forth to Chicago, which was great. So kind of at that time, I got a taste for international travel. Working with BP, flying business class because they still let you fly business class, which was great. And yeah, kind of felt like a bit of an imposter to be honest. Kind of I'm talking to traders. I'm actually really feel like I'm in at the deep end. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm in conversations thinking I have no idea what they're talking about and really thinking, can I actually do this? But again, great learning curve. And after doing that for about a year, you think if I can do this, I can do most things.
yeah.
But that was the time. So you talked about the change or the restructuring. What happened was BP decided to sell this business to Ineos. And Ineos, strips out costs. I'm a very expensive resource. I'm a global resource. I travel a lot, and I'm sort of collateral damage. I am kind of one of those people they take out in order to get their cost base to where it should be. So again, find myself here for the first time, like, yeah, John, you're redundant because you're an expensive resource. Yeah, I went to work for Weatherford's. Again, I
Okay,
tried.
so you got a job straight away. You didn't
I
like
think
take
I
time.
think it took about 3 months.
Okay,
I tried to get a job in finance, thinking like I worked in finance, I've worked in in commercial.
yeah,
Shouldn't be that difficult. I was a bit naive, yeah. It's like, sorry, John, you work in energy. You're an energy person, and I
interesting.
didn't find my skills that transferable
Oh,
naturally to go and work in finance. Or I could have, but I'd have to drop down kind of several levels and start from.
yeah,
So I ended up working for an oil field services company, kind of leading a software team, and yeah, that was and it was at Heriot Watt University in the business
good.
park. So it was yeah, pretty close, nice commute.
Yeah, lots of free time for stuff outside of work.
Lots of mountain biking, lots of either cycle there, cycle back. So yeah, lots of opportunities.
And how would that first restructure work that it ended up with you leaving the company? How did that affect you? Did you see it as just like part of it, or did it like affect you emotionally? Did it make you think, oh, actually, I can't rely on a company like BP even?
I think having been at BP for a while and seen restructures, I think the first time BP ever restructured, I remember speaking to my manager, because it's all a bit uncertain. I've
Yeah,
moved to Scotland from South Wales. I've taken a job. I've moved here. And it's just like, oh, we're restructuring. I'm like, well, what does that mean? And so to answer your question, after a while, it's just inevitable at some point. It's going to happen to you. So I wasn't
inevitable.
phased. It's you get a bit of a payout, and I always translate any payouts I get into time. So what has that brought me? That's the equivalent of like working for a year and a half. Now, if you're that unemployable, you can't find a job in a year and a half, then there's a problem. But you can retrain, you can do other stuff, take a bit of time out. I recognise it takes about 3 months to kind of 4 months to get another job anyway. Um,
Yeah,
so, and it's the uncertainty, not knowing where it's going to come from. But again, if you
yeah.
embrace the fact that that is also, kind of, it's an okay feeling once you've gone through it and you've got it. Very rarely have I ever gone out of one job and straight into another job.
Okay. And so, yeah, not where you wanted to be necessarily. That point in Weatherford. So how long did you stick that?
Yeah, I was there a year, and
Okay.
there's lots of things I still liked BP, and I was given the opportunity to go back to BP in
Right,
Aberdeen.
right,
Um, so again, so I jumped at the opportunity. I kind of went up and I worked in the North Sea for a while, and again
well,
it
after
felt
1 year, you went back.
to BP.
Did you?
Yeah, you
Okay.
feel like boomerang. So yeah, so I boomeranged.
Right, that was a quick boomerang, wasn't it? It was
Yeah,
a
it was.
really quick one.
Yeah, so I worked in IT operations up there, so
Okay.
looked after all the remote terminals, so up to Sullom down to Witch
Oh,
Farm
yeah.
when they had it. So again, a bit of travel in and around the UK, but it was very a UK kind of based operations.
As an employee as well, or was it a
As,
contract role?
as employees, no staff.
So, I mean, that's well, I think that's quite unusual now that you can be made redundant and then within a year or 2 years even be back as an employee again, because obviously they paid you off. You come- so it
Yeah, but
makes a bit of a nonsense of the
yeah,
whole
I don't know who
restructure.
I don't know who paid me off, whether it was Ineos or whether it was
Ah, I
BP,
see.
because
Okay.
maybe Ineos had already bought this entity off BP, so it was probably Ineos that picked up the paycheck in this case.
But so there's obviously something that you liked about BP that you wanted to go back there. What was drawing you back?
I think just the opportunities, the way it felt like a, you know, I'm going to say comfort blanket. It's something that's very familiar. I knew how it worked, and it also was a great vehicle for if you want to go places and do places. as you'll see. So I then ended up in London in global projects, and I got to travel the world. So BP basically picked up the check for me traveling all over the world, from Egypt to Oman to Indonesia, and again, all flying business class. Again, I didn't really know what it's like to travel transatlantic in economy. I do now, and what a surprise, yeah.
Yeah.
Again, it felt like, think about what you want to do, and then go and put yourself in a company that allows you to actually fulfill that. So if you want to travel globally, if you want to sit in a particular business unit, if you want to go work in biofuels, I don't think many companies would have let me go from engineering then into finance, and then kind of so only a company like BP will they let you do that. And the training is fantastic. I'll say, when I started as an engineer, my softer skills, they're better now. Some people would say they're not great, but believe me, when I started as an engineer, they were bad. My boss was very good at the time. He sent me on a lot of team building courses. I got Bellbind, I got Myers-Briggs, I got it was like how to work in teams. So some of it must have rubbed off.
Mm. And so, but that came to an end as well. So there was another restructure there. I mean, there's probably several, but eventually there was one that came with your name on it again.
By the time it had come around, I think I'd been back at BP for about maybe 8 years, and it's the opportunity. I went, my mortgage is paid down now, so that risk has kind of disappeared. I've got a bit more security, and I'm like, yeah, let's take the money. I think it probably equated. I worked it out. It's like not having to work for a year and a half, because some of the payout is tax free and all of that. So I went, great. So I took the money and I went traveling. I think I've mentioned this, but for the audience, I went off to New Zealand. I kite surfed in New Zealand. I went to the Cook Islands and taught kite surfing in the Cook Islands for a while. I went to Africa. I also did some marketing. You were in marketing. I went and did some marketing for a safari in Africa, Kaku Safari Spa. So a call out to Peter Mayer if he's going to listen to this, but he grew up there. But again, they wanted to do some marketing, so we took some drones out. We did some drone footage. We filmed it. And, we marketed it. So there's always something a bit kind of different. It's like, well, great opportunity. I don't know much about marketing. Let's go and market the hell out of Carcliffe Safari Spa. I enjoyed it.
So it looked like you'd escaped corporate life at that point. You were doing these more interesting jobs in far-flung countries that were allowing you to follow some of your hobbies, passions.
Yeah.
You were still curious about areas of business and of the world that you could possibly at that point have just said, right, this is it. I'm just going to just do things that make me enjoy life. Why did you come back?
I think traveling, the money gets kind of runs down, Adam, at the end of the day. So it's great traveling, and again, unless you've got an endless supply of money, work has got to kick in some capacity at some point. So after a year plus of traveling, I came back. I hadn't started applying for jobs or looking for jobs, and I don't know, very fortuitous. I think I was back a week, and I got contacted by someone who was hiring an interrogator and said, would you be interested? And as much as I try and get away from energy, it's difficult. They were growing their energy practice.
Okay.
So it's an analytics company, but they were strong into financial services, healthcare and life sciences, but they wanted to grow their energy practice. And clearly I knew BP, I knew energy, I didn't know that much about analytics, but again, the fact I don't know something doesn't bother me. It's like, well, how long is it going to take to learn, and how hard can it be?
But that's also interesting that to them, your background was more valuable than, the background in energy was seen to be much more valuable. And I think that's often one of those things people don't expect. I speak to a lot of people who just seem to believe that as soon as they walk away from that company, all that kind of association, all that baggage, as well as, a value, somehow gets diluted in a way, but actually you carry it all with you, and and in this case, it's very valuable because they're selling you with all your intelligence about this company that is probably a good proxy for all the other big companies as well, energy companies as well.
I think what I liked, and you get a lot of transferable skills.
Yeah.
This is a weird one. When you're working in energy, everybody around you talks energy.
Yeah.
Now I'm actually working for an analytics company where they talk about like well completions. Nobody knows what they're talking about. It's like being bilingual. Yeah. If you speak French and English, you don't think anything about it. Now I'm actually people coming up while I'm working in Teradata and going, I've no idea what they just said. Can you translate it? And for me, it's second nature. So now I'm in a job. It's exciting, it's different, but I don't feel that I'm actually having to work that hard to explain something that's felt like second nature to me.
But it wasn't second nature; it was learned skills and experience that you developed.
Yeah, and as I said, so you don't understand what skills are transferable, and you do learn a lot working in a large organization like BP. Again, the processes, the team building, the networking, it's all there. And again, I think people dumb down or don't actually realize the skills they have.
No, I think totally unconscious of those things. And you're right, because everybody else seems to have them around you. You just assume the world knows these things. And so because of that, you sort of diminish yourself and your view of yourself. And I was on a call yesterday with a woman from Shell who was helping a founder. And that hour created so many opportunities for that founder that, he may eventually have solved all those problems himself, but it could have taken him several years, and the chances he wouldn't survive. She unlocked contacts, knowledge, ways of doing things that can save him so much time. And I think she probably would have, if I'd not pointed that out, she would have walked away from that call thinking, oh, it's nice. That guy seemed a nice guy. It was kind of useful that I could help him, and not given any more thought to it. But actually to him, that might have saved him a year and been the difference between survival or success, which, and that's one of my missions, I think, here, to help people see what you saw at that point, whether they choose to leave or not, but just to know that what you've got is really, really valuable. Teradata, how long did you start Teradata?
About 2 years.
2 years. What?
Yeah.
Why?
Theme emerging.
I don't know. Have you got a short attention to back?
Yeah, I do. I think I've got the same Myers-Briggs as you, Adam. Yeah, so ENFP. Yeah. So it's very. But that's why I keep changing. I like change. I like variety. I couldn't do the same job day in, day out. I like variety. But also doing things in an unconventional way, as you've seen. So change and ambiguity doesn't particularly faze me. I embrace it because I think at the back end you learn something. You learn something about yourself. You work with new people. Embrace that.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Then whereas being in BP, you didn't necessarily need to leave to go and get that change because it's so massive. In Teradata, which I don't know at all, but I'm imagining it's not the same size or with the same different kinds of roles that are available in BP, the option is really just to leave if you're not getting what you want out of it.
I mean, the reason I left again, so I got the opportunity to go and work for Amazon. Really, ironically, they were setting up their energy practice or growing the energy practice. I think I was number 2 or 3 into the team. And by the time I left, I think the team was kind of upwards of 100 plus people. But again, growing the energy practice. But what was great is Amazon is an amazing company to work for. The breadth and depth. I've got to work across all verticals, not just energy. Energy was still my anchor. That's kind of why I was taken in there. But I worked with BPs, Shells, all the energy companies.
What was it like being on the other side as well, from being the client in BP, where you were, you were talking to these people as vendors, and then you're the vendor going back. How were you able to use what you knew before, and how did that sort of change the dynamic in the relationships?
I would say there's very little continuity from being a buyer and being making the decisions to then being a seller. It's my first venture into selling, and yeah, selling's hard. Yeah, knockbacks. Also, learning to be very clear and concise with your pitch. What does the customer want? And again, you don't always sell. So again, that was probably my biggest. Remember, I'm an engineer by background. I'm used to building things that I'm not used to having to sell, get in front of customers, get knockbacks all the time or a lot of the time.
Right. So you left Amazon again. There was a moment where you could have done something different, but you chose somewhere different. And it turns out to be a bigger corporate than BP, I think, isn't it?
By it's the same size. I think it's 50,000.
50,000. Okay.
Again, I had it's EPAM. They go, you've either heard of us or you haven't heard of us. But real strong engineering pedigree. And now I bring the analytics knowledge that I've learned from Teradata and AWS. And now I get to apply that across all verticals and all sectors. So that's great. No, really, no 2 days or no 2 weeks are the same for me.
Yeah, but it does really feel. I mean, although it is a bit different, you could look at it as your career is dots, and you've kind of looped back and forth a bit. I mean, that does sound to me to be a lot of just building blocks, really, all these things. I mean, there's some odd moments, I suppose, but even like the control systems and whatever, there's a whole load of data and architecture around that, which you kind of, doing souped up versions of, I'm sure now. But it does actually seem like fairly linear in a way.
Yeah. I think when you look back, then you can just say there is logic or some rationale and reason. But I never knew what the next job would be. I didn't plan to go into to work for Amazon. I didn't expect it. It was like you apply for jobs or you are approached and are you interested in this job? And then you look at it and go, well, is this the sort of thing I want to do? But there's got to be some linkage. When in BP I could move around potentially, but no. Now there has to be an anchor. So like the energy linkage into Teradata. Then I learned analytics, and then able to then go to Amazon because I have analytics knowledge and energy knowledge. And now to EPAM because I have AWS knowledge and energy, but also now I'm acquiring other knowledge across. So I'm more of a consultant now.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, there is another version of you in the world, not in the world really, that could have just stayed at BP the whole time. Could have done that 8 years, not gone through the INEOS thing, and then stayed in BP. Unlike me, 16 years, your 2/8 together, could have easily been one career, one company. And I'm interested if you just picture those two scenarios, the one today and that one. What do you think you've gained by jumping in and out to different jobs versus had you stayed in one?
I think it's an eye opener. I think that if I'd stayed in BP, that's all you know. But you don't know what you don't know. Everybody I ever speak to, and you speak to a lot more people now who've left, Adam, but the people who have left, and I know have left, I don't think I've ever met anybody who goes, that was the wrong decision, or it's like, oh my God, this has opened new doors. It's given me a new view of the world. And again, I look back through my career that wasn't by design, but the ability to work for Amazon, travel globally, the stuff I do now, the solutions, like lots of work around generative AI. I didn't expect to kind of be so heavily ingrained in analytics, but here I am. So yeah, to your point, I think the first time you let go is the most frustrating or annoying because you don't expect it and it creates uncertainty. But after that, you kind of like, it's not that bad, yeah? I did get another job. Oh, I have got transferable skills.
Yeah, really good. The other thing is, I'm also interested in identity. I mean, your identity is no longer, I mean, maybe it was never BP, Whereas I really feel like, because I had 16 years there, it's still a really, really big part of my identity. It doesn't, I'm working at Shell now, so there's constantly a kind of BP Shell thing. But it does really feel like that identity has stayed with me. Whereas your identity, I think, it's more of it's energy. It's looser for a start, but it's also energy rather than BP, and so it's diluted over time, that identity.
I'd say my identity now is probably energy and analytics. If you want to
Yeah.
say what are John's skill sets, those two things would come through. Mustang, I think you've mentioned this before. When you work for BP and people go, "What do you do?" You go, "I work for BP," and the conversation stops.
Yeah.
If I say I work for Amazon, other than my mother thinks I'm working a big warehouse in a forklift truck, the conversation stops. People don't really tend to ask you much more, and then you go, like you said, never heard of them, Teradata, never heard of them. So you end up having more of a conversation about what you do. When you work for a company that people have never heard of.
So one of the themes that I really pick up on talking to people when they've left is confidence, self-confidence, and a theme of the more you move outside, so doing exactly what you've done, the higher the confidence versus staying in the same kind of job where over time you can feel a bit like, I'm just here waiting. You kind of there's a sort of inevitability that you will at some stage face a restructure, and it may not be when you choose it. But also just that feeling of not being tested so frequently is, I feel like you have been. You've been tested in these new jobs. You've moved out of these areas, the engineering into finance, into kind of control systems and data and analytics, and you've had to really put yourself into a situation that you didn't necessarily have all the answers or have deep capability. But particularly when you're in a sales role, you're having to go and kind of pretend a bit to get your foot in the door and then keep yourself there. So what do you think about your confidence? If you think of it as like a trajectory over time, how do you feel it's changed and moved?
I think the more skills you acquire as you go. So, I was an engineer, then I got finance skills, then I got business skills. So I think your confidence, not just mine, I think generally people's confidence as you develop more skills, or you might get more certifications, you might become, project management certified, or you may know more about machine learning and analytics. So as you get all of those, you gain confidence, and you know that, you could.
Yeah, but I feel like you've done that. So you could have been a control engineer who just did that and nothing else, or made a whole career. And I think then your confidence is high. This domain super well, but anything out here looks terrifying, or at least alien to you.
Yeah, I had this conversation early on in my career when I was with BP. Do you want to be kind of thin and narrow and have deep domain expertise and be the best in the world at a particular thing, like building simulation systems, or do you want to be sort of narrow and wide, i.e., a lot of stuff about a lot of things? Hence my transition into business. So yeah, to a certain extent, Adam, you're right. I have supplemented my lack of skills in finance by working in finance so I can understand it. If I don't understand analytics, so I'll kind of go and work in analytics. For me, sometimes the easiest way to solve the not being able to do something is let somebody kind of let you work in that space. Like I can't speak French, but I've been learning French now. I went just dive in the deep end, yeah. So I think be uncomfortable with the uncomfortableness and put yourself in that area because you'll learn it, yeah.
So, and one of the things that I was surprised about when we had talked the other week was I assumed you'd been contracting all this time. Actually, I just assumed because I knew I only really got to see these beautiful photos and then drone footage of these amazing places you were doing water sports in. That I just assumed that you were flipping in between contracts and then having months and months out in Fiji or wherever. But actually, all the time you've been employed. And has that been a conscious decision to not be a contractor and keep the I guess, some of the sort of security, perceived security, really, of a corporate employer?
I think I probably do like the security. If I wanted a contract, I could contract. But again, I think the roles I have, again, they are flexible, they are accommodating.
Mm.
So I feel I've got the best of both worlds. I have the security and the comfort, but again, but I've got to deliver the outcomes at the same time. And to your point, when I've changed jobs, I've always tried to, take as much time off between jobs as possible. So,
Oh,
when you're saying, well, kind of, where are you now? You're in Antigua, or now you're there. It's because if I can take 3 months or 6 months off between jobs, I'll do that.
yeah.
I think life is too short, so go and do stuff with the time that you have off. So no, I have no desire to leave one job on a Friday and start another one on a Monday.
Okay, brilliant. Well, I think there's a lot there for people, both, I mean, particularly the ones that are sitting in those jobs, to take from this conversation about making the company work for you. And I think this is one of the things that I noticed after a while. We stop kind of trying to get this balance in our jobs where, we end up sort of accepting a load of things that don't work for us, but we feel like that we have to accept them. And what you, I think, have done very consciously is make sure you're in balance. I'm giving up a bunch of things here, a bunch of time, but actually as much as possible, I'm going to get as much from this opportunity right now. And if I don't get it, I'm confident enough that there are other opportunities that
Yeah,
I can
what I
go
want to
after.
say, working for a large company, if you can map out what it is you want to achieve, I think the opportunities for, if you frame it right, moving around is there.
So this projecting forward, I feel like that is another theme in what you've done. You've just looked a bit further ahead, not 20 years, but just looked a bit ahead and said, can I get this? If not, maybe there are other places where I can.
Yeah, and I've always thought, if you're not enjoying your job, I mean, some people stay because, to your point, they're risk averse, but people have transferable skills. A job is a large part of your life. And most people, work for 40 years. So if you've got another 20 years in your career left and you don't want to be where you are, don't just stay there for the paycheck. That's what a lot of people do. There's a lot of opportunities out there.
Brilliant. Well, let's leave it there. Fantastic. Thanks,
Okay.
John. Very inspiring.
Learned a few things, yeah.